Greetings, citizens of Nerdtropolis. Sean Taj here, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and my guests today are Freestyle 101 hip-hop history director Frank Meyer and artist Ras Kass. Frank Myers and Ras Kass, great to have y'all here. And I'm excited to talk about this documentary, Freestyle 101 hip-hop history. And I felt like I was watching something that you would see on MTV and VH1 back in the day when they used to air cool stuff, cool documentaries and everything. It was very eye-opening for me and very entertaining to someone like me. So I really loved it, exploring the early days of hip-hop through freestyle rap. So I want to start with you, Frank, and how this project came about.
Well, the project originally came about just because I grew up in LA in the golden era of rap, and I'm a fan of that music and was always passionate about it. And since I was local, it was real easy to go and see guys like Ras Kass when he was coming up, or go see a legend like Ice-T, because the scene in Los Angeles was happening for that kind of music. But for me, as far as the film goes, I was working at NBC's G4 TV. If you remember G4 TV, it was like the video game.
Oh, yeah, I remember. And it
right.
to come back. So that was a great time for sure.
And you remember Attack of the Show, which was their sort of flagship show. It launched Olivia Munn and a whole bunch of sort of people from there. So I was doing digital content for them. And they, in the early days of podcasting, they were like, hey, do you got any ideas for a podcast? And really, it had nothing to do with Attack of the Show. I just wanted to basically get cool musicians I knew in the booth and go see them do their thing and kind of have fun. And I also thought that if we did freestyling, like, I kind of knew that every rapper wasn't necessarily an expert freestyler, but I knew that that was sort of a place that most rappers started from in the early days. So it was kind of a good conversation piece that even guys who would say, well, I did that as a kid, but I don't do it now. I'm really lyrical. I write everything down, but they could kind of use that as a jumping off point. So it just gave me kind of a good conversation piece that wasn't just like, so tell me how to rap. But I felt like guitar players, there's a million people asking guitar players about their technique. But at that time I was like, why is no one talking to like Micah 9 or Ras Kass or Supernatural about their technique? Like, you want to talk about intricate musical conversation. So that's really where it started from. And we did like 100 some episodes, and then the whole G4 network got canceled. But right before it got canceled, I pitched them on doing a larger documentary film on it. And I started running around and filming battle rapper Iron Solomon, Open Mike Eagle here on the West Coast. And essentially all that content became the movie. It just took a while to wrangle it because of the whole thing with G4 TV going away. And then the other weird thing that happened then is that one of the guys we were shooting who had been on the podcast and was a guy I went real far back with before all this stuff was a rapper named Hellraiser that Ras Kass knew. And he was one of the original stars of the early version of the film, and he had a brain aneurysm and obviously couldn't go on with the film. But when I went to visit him, I kind of was like, whoa, like this is way heavier than he wasn't really letting a lot of people know how hardcore that was. And when I saw him, and then I saw him, and then right around the time the freestyle thing was kind of almost being taken away from me. And I was like, well, I don't need NBC or anyone to tell this story. I'm just going to go do this. I did that. In the meantime, got the footage back, and then we put together the film.
I love that. You approach this as a fan, and I can tell as a lover of the art and just being a fan of all these artists. So, I mean, that must have been awesome to kind of work with all these people, just like Ras Kass. How is that? To work with people that you love listening to?
I mean, it was great. The coolest part to me about it was like, we would book these days in the studio, and we'd have, like an artist booked at noon and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but it's musicians, so no one shows up on time. So there would always a point where like the early guys, the later guys all crossed over. So just yesterday, I sent this to you, Raz. I was going through my archives and I found this picture of Terminology and Ras Kass, and it's Term when he's young too. He's a young little kid. I don't know if that was the first time you met him or not, Raz, but it was like we would have these moments like that. Like one time Prodigy from Mobb Deep just let me use his studio all day, and no one showed up on time. So at one point I had Ice-T, Trigger the Gambler, Smooth the Hustler, Shaheem, Shabam Sadiq, Little Fame, Teflon, all in a room together playing video games. And I was just calling them out going, all right, Ice, we're ready for you. Fame, you can hang there. It was like crazy. So that was the fun stuff.
Yeah, please tell me there's a photo of that, especially them playing video games. That's an iconic shot, I feel like.
I don't even know, man. I was working. So it's like, how when you're working, you don't think sometimes to do that stuff. You just keep working.
Yeah. And Raz, it's a pleasure to have you here. I wanted to know
Thanks.
what got you started in the world of hip hop and what inspired you to become a rapper. What was that moment where that light just switched on for you?
The catalyst for me, I mean, I'm a fan. I'm just like Frank. So, just you're fanning out. You just want to go to to the places, to the club or to the show. I think my catalyst for me actually wanting to participate is I'll try to make a long story short. We used to make these little tapes and diss each other, me and my friend Bird. We were in the 8th grade. Bird gave the tape to the guy who was dating his older sister, who was in high school. But she was in high school. He was out of high school. That guy turned out to be Battle Cat. And that's what took me. So the DJ Battle Cat, who produces for Snoop and, everything else. So Cat invested in us young. He came back, was like, "You're dope rapping." And he told Bird, you have a great ear. And he kind of took us under his wing. So my journey, and then I was still just a kid. So I was, being dumb and, acting up and going, getting in trouble. But yeah, I was like recognized early on from Battle Cat and then Wino, who produced everything for Coolio, rest in peace. So they took me under their wing when I was way too immature to have an opportunity, to be honest.
Yeah, and this question's for both of y'all. What do you believe are the essential elements that make a great freestyle artist? I mean, I can't imagine, like, I never tried to rap, but like sometimes I try to rhyme things and I'm just horrible at it for some reason. It just doesn't flow anything. I don't have that talent. I feel like it's something you're born with. But what type of elements make a great freestyle artist?
Well, Raz, you should start this because you can actually rap. I'm still an observer to some extent.
There's nobody. I mean, there's probably somebody born with it, but most people aren't. It's any skill set. Muscle memory, practice makes perfect. So, I've recently tried to jump into the Catalina Island, into the ocean, into the Pacific, and I hadn't swam for 5 years, and that was a really bad idea. I almost died. So you have to practice. It's like it's anything. I'm not that great at it now. People like you name some Mike and Nine and
Supernatural,
they're constantly like, you have to. It's one of those things. So I would say when you're younger, before we really got wrapped up in the business of making music, because now you got meetings and A&R and promo, and now you got social media. So when you're a kid and maybe you're in your friend's car and you're driving to the place, you guys would, you'd be rapping in the car. You put on the beat, the song you love the most, and then you just take turns doing that. And that was creating that practice. And then you get into battle rapping, and you were being ciphers and all that. So it just takes you, I'll let you in on one little secret. Most people, it's already innately, but by the time I'm saying something, I've already thought about the next two things I'm gonna say, and I know where I'm going. So you have to kind of pre-think what you're saying, be able to articulate the thing you said, and already be starting to set up the next things you're doing. And so the illest of us are good at doing that and at practice doing that a lot. So, you know what I'm saying? But a lot, by the time I said the word a lot, I'm already thinking about allotting something, a pot, squat, you know what I'm saying? And what words, what do I want to say to set that up to take you on this journey with a punchline, or to say I'm better than you, or whatever that thing is that we're trying to address in the freestyle.
Well, and one thing that we touch on in the film, and that I certainly learned with seeing enough of these great artists do their thing, is that it kind of morphed into like two styles. Like out here on the West Coast, and coming up with places like The Good Life and Project Blowed, which are some of the scenes out here, it's all about improvisation. If you come in with a bunch of writtens that you're trying to like play off, they'll catch you and they'll call you out and they'll throw you off stage like Apollo style. But our other, so Open Mike Eagle from our film kind of represents the modern version of that scene. But then out on the East, the battle thing is really what became big, and that's what became popular. And those guys are like boxers, where like you have to be able to think on your feet, but at the same time they're coming in with lines totally written, and they've done homework actually. In fact, if you don't know that kid's brother went to private school and did this, and his mom, like, you're not ready for a battle because you haven't. But then on the other hand, if in the middle of all that structured stuff you've got ready, like some dude in a red t-shirt does something dumb, you better be able to jump on that too.
Right.
So it's kind of a different version of improvisation where it's okay to have, and maybe even encouraged to have some pre-written, punchlines and stuff. Because if not, these guys are just gonna
they're gonna eat your luck.
Yeah, they're just destroy.
And I kind of came from that too. Like even in a circle, a cipher, or a battle, we would start with freestyles, and then what we would call deep water, drag somebody into deep water. And if I could get you in the first 2 or 3 rounds of just off the top of the dome and talking about the girl or your shoe or whatever that stuff is, then by the time I get into my written rhymes that are immaculate, then I'm going to jump in and out of them. So the best people were the ones that could go from their writtens and do that for 8, 10 bars and then slide right back out of that, address something that you said, and then go back into the written seamlessly. And that was the nastiest ones. That's what, battling, that's where I came. I came from that, the mix of the two.
How does someone find out where these battles are happening? I have not witnessed one in the flesh. I've always seen videos of them. How do you find out about
It's a lot more
these?
organized now. I mean, you got King of the Dot, you got all these, these battle leagues. But I come from
Ultimate Rap League's another one which
right.
came out of Smack DVDs, which was kind of what I remember being the first real big like scene around it in any where you could buy a battle. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
yeah, it was less organized. Like we're talking about battles where, I was there when Jay-Z was outside of the New Music Seminar in New York. That was just people saying all these rappers is in there, but I'm better and they're outside proving that they better. You know what I'm saying? I was there. That was the same time Supernat won the battle competition. And I'm the young dude, and I remember I had met Supernat, he won, we became cool. I had maybe a demo, and then I went outside and I was kind of intimidated. It's my first time as a signed artist or up and coming artist in New York. And it was this big crowd outside and I was about to go because I was intimidated. And then I saw all these other dudes rhyme and I was just they not that nice. They looked like the part, but they didn't have the skill set. I was I'm going to burn these dudes. And I remember across from me, this tall dude walked up and it was oh, that's the Wine Sophie dude. It was Jay-Z. And if you look close, you'll see me in the footage. Somebody has that footage. You see a young me in an orange polo shirt or whatever. And then he killed it. I was just it's over with. I don't even want to do it no more because he did good. You know what I'm saying? But if he would have been whack, you would have seen me get up in there. So it was more impromptu. And also we were kind of like dog fights, man. Your big homie would put money on you. So the Philly dudes were known for that. They'd have whoever their older dude friend was, whether he was a football player or a basketball player who had money, or his homie that's so dope, I got money on my friend. He's better than y'all. You go to high school. When I was in high school, I went to other people. Snoop and them know me from going to their high school. They were older than me. And people bringing me yo, Raz will kill y'all, and we were battling like that. So it was it wasn't as organized and structured as it is now. This was really for bragging rights. So you just go around different cities, who was the best in the city, going to Inglewood, going to Compton and barring people out. That's the way it was. Really Beat Street, man. Beat Street with the lyrics.
I'll tell you one funny thing and maybe you knew this, Raz, I didn't know this, but did you know that Supernatural and Sean Price are cousins?
No.
Yeah. When I was interviewing Sean Price, Supernat came up and he goes yeah, that's my cousin. I went, Supernatural's a cousin? He goes, Rico. And then sure enough, it's Rico Price. That's his real name. He's yeah, it's my cousin Rico.
Wow, that's awesome.
Isn't that crazy?
So in this freestyle world, there's a lot of confidence you need to have, I guess, then. It's a battle of confidence as well than just spitting things out. So how do you think that freestyle rap continues to influence and inspire a new generation of hip hop artists today? I mean, it's all about confidence and talent, but also a lot of luck as well.
Right.
Yeah, I think you can hear it. I mean, the reality is that rap these days or hip hop music these days, I just don't think in general is quite as based on being a really great lyrical MC or being a great freestyler. And I'm not saying that there aren't a bunch of younger rappers that are really good, but I think rap music in general has moved towards being poppier and being less about bars and skills and content. So now, and I don't even mean that as a complaint. It's just like, that's just the way it is now.
I do.
And yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying not to be negative, but you know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, that's just the way it is. So like, you know, if you want to go hear real bars these days, quite frankly, I'm picking up music by the same guys I was picking up who I wanted to hear bars from back in the 90s. Ras Kass, you know what I mean? Like
Redman, right? You know,
yeah. I mean, Redman, like,
Ghost,
that's
Nas.
awesome. Ghost. Yeah, with Nas
Right.
or Ghostface put out a record, I know there's going to be some like real stuff to listen to on that, some real content, some, you know, some emotion, some different, you know, different levels. I don't expect that from an Ice Spice record. And she'd be the first one to tell you. I literally just read an article this morning where she's like, I'm not lyrical. Like, she's not even trying to, she's a rapper, but she's not even trying to pretend like she's lyrical, which in a weird way, I kind of respected her for not even putting her hat in that game. Like, that's not me. I'm not an MC. I'm a pop star.
I'm going to add on, and this is not in a negative way.
Sure.
I would say this, that corporate, you know, you get corporate business is not here to reinvent the wheel. They're here to sell you the same toilet paper over and over again. And so that's kind of when he's saying the corporatization of rap, the popization of rap music. There's even a term called rap. Like, oh, he rap. Like, but it's
like real rap.
So, right. So I'm like, you know, for me, I think I won't harp on this, but, you know, if it's called baseball, you have to be able to catch, pitch, you know, something, or it's not baseball. Right. I said in the rhyme, if you can't pitch, catch, or throw, why play baseball? You know what I'm saying? Don't play baseball. So rap should have something, anything, whether it's, you know, glass making, whether it's architecture. If you're bad architecture, the house falls down and then you kill people because you made it. So there should be some responsibility to be good at what you do. And rap is literally the only skill set where being bad at it is now being rewarded.
That's a good point.
I can talk and say how you know how much of a bum Floyd Mayweather is. Not that I would, but the point is, once I got in that ring, you would find out how much of a bum I really am, because he's gonna dust me off, and I'm gonna run out of cardio, and most of us will in about 3 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So there should be some respect for the art form, and we've kind of lost that. But I also wanted to, as a plus, was to say that I think that the battle leagues, you know, really smack those things in the past 10, 15 years or whatever it was. They created a lane for lyricism, for freestyle, and for skill set. And they encouraged a lot of the young people to want to have the skill set and to respect the skill set. And so I'm very appreciative to the battle rappers, because they taught, you know, the guys that are now 25, you know, probably were 15. Those guys that were 25 now, maybe even 30, they taught them an appreciation for the skill set when the music industry was not. They were busy trying to sell that same toilet paper. So I still think to this day, battle rap has been the biggest proponent for the skill set of rhyming in hip hop.
Well, and you still see, to kind of answer your question, because I was thinking about it, I mean, there's still good young generations of rappers coming out. They're just way fewer and far between. But you look at the Griselda guys, like when Benny the Butcher and Conway came out, it was like, oh shit, some rappers stepped in the building. Like, oh, hello. Like, you could tell right away the second you heard those guys that they'd been listening to Cool G rap since they were 3 years old, like a baby's bottle, you know what I mean? And like, you know, a couple years before that, when Action Bronson, Mayhem Loren, you know, those guys came out. Again, it's like every couple years, you know, there's like a wave of like young kids that like grew up on golden era.
Yeah, J. Cole and Kendrick. Like, there's always dope.
Joey Badass, you know what I mean? Like
Joey Badass. Coast Contra, you know, I got a dog in that race. So there's always, you know, talented people. It's just harder because the industry doesn't reward talent. It rewards selling the same toilet paper. And so a lot of the lyrical artists feel like there's no opportunities for them. So they have to kind of dumb it down, water it down so that it can be more marketable. And, you know, again, you know, if they did that in basketball, then me and you could all play for the Lakers, but
and that would be a terrible sport.
Terrible, because it'd be a very boring game, you know. And that's the whole thing. Football, any skill set, you know, you can't let me drive your NASCAR. I'm gonna wreck it immediately.
actually you want to talk lyrical hip hop from guys who came up in the freestyle era. Raz is actually part of a super group called the Horsemen. Like that's the best record that came out this year, last year, the year before. Like, meaning, as far as I'm concerned, nothing's topped that record since that record came out. And there was an early bootleg Horseman record from like back in the day that was also fire, but was hard to get for a long time. But they made like kind of a reunion record. And it came out right when COVID hit, which was not the best time for anyone to be putting out art because the world was panicking. So but man, I'm telling you, that record, like, it's Cannabis, Killah Priest, Ras Kass, and Corrupt. The four pretty much greatest MCs of all time, like in a group. And the whole vibe of it's like medieval, like knights and chopping off heads. It's like some Game of Thrones shit. It's great.
That's what we wanted to channel.
If you like comic books and like genre movies and hip hop, I'm telling you,
it's a soundtrack. I can tell for Nerdtropolis over here is what it is.
You're gonna lose. I'm telling you that you lose your mind. It's like when that record came out, I just listened to it for like 3 months straight. I was like, every single verse, I was just like, what the fuck is happening? It's like hell. It's like the Cenobites from Hellraiser formed a rap group. Essentially.
I love that. That is awesome. And I have to say, this documentary, I think, is going to be a must watch for everybody. It's a great way to kind of remember some of the stuff from back in the day and also not forget this art form. And I feel like it needs to be put in the forefront more often. And that's what Freestyle 101 does. It's really great. So Frank, after this, what is next for you?
Well, my career is always straddling between being a filmmaker and a musician myself. So on the film side, I just directed 4 videos by this legendary punk band called The Dwarves. It's off their new record, and those will be coming out one by one over the next several months. And then I'm going out to Europe and touring. I play in a hard rock band called Trading Aces, and I play in a punk band called the Streetwalking Cheetahs, and both bands tour Europe pretty often. And so both bands have new records coming out, and both bands are going to just bebop and scat all around Europe for most of next year. So yeah, and then I do weird other... Somehow I stumbled into the fitness game. Like, I mean, not me, clearly not me personally, but directing content for that. There's this company called Tonal, and they're like the digital weightlifting competitor to Peloton. You've seen the LeBron and the Serena commercials for it. It's like the mirror on the wall and the bars. And so I was directing content for them for years, and then I started working with Tony Horton, the guy that invented P90X program, and so now I work with Tony a lot. So when I'm not doing music content or creating music content, I'm directing fitness stuff. It's a weird career I have. It's really
a lot of fun stuff, and you're talking to a rock and roll kid right here. I'm a drummer, and I had a band in high school, and those are my roots. Is a lot of heavy metal and rock and punk rock and stuff like that. So that's all me. And Raz, you released a new album, I think last year, that came out, or
I released something. I don't know. It's all a blur.
You release a lot of stuff. You have a lot of music. So what are you working on currently, and what can we expect from you next?
We're releasing a project called Gutter, Guttr, and that's me. It's me and an upcoming MC named RJ Payne from out of Philly, and all completely produced by Havoc from Mobb Deep. So we're it's done. We're just getting our assets, editing video. So the next 30 to 60 days, you'll start seeing that content. We're really excited about it. It's a tribute, just to the vibe. Nobody can replace Prodigy. So our whole thing was, we miss that kind of music. How do we give people current versions of that music? Go to the source, get Have, and then just, and salute P and get Gutter. So yeah, it's definitely bars. It's lyrical. It's not watered down. It's grimy. So I'm excited.
I love it. I wanted to thank y'all so much for your time. And this Freestyle 101 hip hop history is a must watch. So I'm going to tell everyone about it. But once again, thank y'all. And hopefully we can see each other on whatever coast we end up on at the same time.
Nerdtropolis.
Thanks, man.
Once again, this is Sean Taj, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and stay tuned for more movie news, reviews, interviews, and trailers.